Experts in Ocala. We are your building material closeout store. 2191 Northwest 10th Street, just 2 miles east of I-75.
Ocala's information station, 1370 WOCA.
Ocala.
Diamonds in the sunset, now your time has come. A pretty yellow bird fly away.
All right, thank you for tuning in this Wednesday morning. It's 25 minutes before 10 o'clock. A nice-looking Wednesday morning, and we've got a book that we want to share with you and allow you to hear the author speak, and we will go back in time. And it's a fascinating look at something that is written as a novel, and I'm not sure if it is a novel. I think it's true and maybe fictionalized as well. MJ Rose will answer our questions about the book. The book is called The Collector of Dying Breaths. It is described as a novel of suspense spanning the days of Catherine de' Medici's court in the 1500s all the way to right now, the 21st century. MJ Rose is an historian and a founding board member of the International Thriller Writers. She founded the first marketing company for authors, and she is an awesome writer. The book is, again, The Collector of Dying Breaths. And boy, I'm having a bell ring in my head, Robin. I feel like we've spoken to MJ Rose before. Good morning, MJ.
Hi, how are you? You have spoken to me before.
Yeah, well, thank you for being on again.
Thank you for having me again.
How's the signal for you? You hearing us okay?
Yeah, I hear you just fine.
Okay, so the little echo thing went away, or big echo thing?
The big echo was gone.
yeah, I know we got to get that fixed. But thank God it doesn't happen while we're actually on the air. Well, thank you for being on again. Where are you right now?
I'm in Connecticut.
Connecticut? How's Connecticut right now? It must be nice, huh?
It's kind of lovely. The snow is finally all gone, so it's really nice here.
Oh, wow. Tell me about this book, and fill in the blanks for the question I have regarding the historical part versus the fiction part.
Okay, well, there's a lot of real facts in this book tied in with the fiction. So I'll start with a little bit of what is real, which is that Catherine de' Medici was a young girl living in Florence. She was a duchessina, which is a little duchess. And she used to have her fragrance made for her at Santa Maria Novella Pharmacy, which is actually still in existence. It's the oldest pharmacy in the world. It's been making perfume, lotions, and balms since the 11th or 12th century.
Wow.
And there was an orphan there named René, who was apprenticed to the perfumer, and he made perfume for Catherine de' Medici. And when she went to marry Prince Henry, King Francis's son, in France, she left Italy, and she took about 300 of her court with her, which was common for the day. And one of the people she took with her was this young man, René, her perfumer. And they went to France. And in France, there was no perfume industry at the time. And Europe really smelled incredibly, incredibly badly back then, because most people took 2 baths, one when they were born and one when they died.
Oh, man.
Clothes were very expensive, so most people only had 1 or 2 outfits, so they didn't change them often and wash them less often.
Wow, how did they ever have babies? How did anybody have sex with somebody who stunk like that?
Well, they all smelled the same.
Right, they didn't know it didn't smell. Like, even in the court, this is so disgusting, but even in the court, sometimes if you had to go to the bathroom badly enough, you just dropped trow, and you just went to the bathroom. There were piles of excrement on staircases. I mean, it was filthy. So one of the things that they did was they perfumed themselves incredibly heavily to offset the scent. There are all these horrible other scents. Everything smelled terrible. So when Catherine de' Medici and René get to France, the perfume that they bring with them becomes an instant hit and becomes a huge thing. And the whole French perfume industry really begins when Catherine gets to France and René gets to France. She ensconces him in the palace. She gives him a store on one of the famous bridges on the Seine. And so their life together in France starts. Now he becomes So that's all real.
That's all true. Okay.
That's all true. And everything about the perfume industry and Renee and Catherine, from a political point of view, is all true. History knows almost nothing about him personally. One major thing that I haven't said is that he was her poisoner. I don't mean he poisoned her. I mean he made poisons for her.
Okay.
How women of the time dealt with their problems. They didn't shoot people. They didn't stab them. They poisoned them in a very ladylike manner. So,
Okay.
See.
Renee comes up with completely innovative ways to poison people, like impregnating kid gloves with poison, that when people put them on, the poison gets into their skin, and after 3 days, they're dead.
Help me understand what that is. What's a kid glove? What's that?
Kid leather, made out of leather. Leather
Sure.
at the time
Okay.
was, leather smelled as bad as everything else at the time. When they made clothes out of it and gloves and everything else, it stunk. And they had to perfume it to get rid of all the body odors of the animals. So perfume leather was a very big deal, and all perfume stores sold leather goods. So it was very easy to impregnate gloves, shirts, all kinds of things.
Wow.
They could even impregnate a man's cotton shirt with poison, and somebody would die 3 days later. So that's one of the, all that's true. What's not true is that we don't know that if you collect somebody's dying breath, you actually can reincarnate them in somebody else's body with their soul. But we do know that Henry Ford, the auto magnate who started the Ford Motor Company,
Right.
and Thomas Alva Edison, who invented, among other things, of course, the light bulb, both believed that if you collected someone's dying breath, their soul was encapsulated in that last breath, and that if you could figure it out, you could reincarnate them at a later date. To the point that Thomas Alva Edison's dying breath is in a test tube in his museum, which is what his house was. Now, they don't have anything to do with the book, but that was where I got the idea
Okay. Wow.
of dying breath. So nobody knows if it's true or not, but it's certainly a theory that I didn't make up. And the book is about Renee, the perfumer, believing that if you collected that dying breath, you could reanimate the soul, and a woman in the 21st century believing the same thing. And the book crisscrosses the past and the present in a kind of race to find the elixir that will reanimate that dying breath. And it's told against the backdrop of the world of perfume.
Oh, so fascinating! Wow, and you took all of that, and I have so many questions about what you just said. We it's amazing. We came to this continent, and we called these people savages, and we were pooping on steps.
That's right.
that seems pretty uncivilized to me. Oh wow! Was that what you described all across Europe, or was that just I don't know? I mean, was it all across Europe? I guess I'll just ask it.
Yeah, that was all across Europe. Now there were other civilizations at other times that were incredibly clean. Ancient Egyptians, for instance, bathed 3 times a day, and the ancient Romans had bathrooms and running water and very evolved cleanliness habits.
Oh, okay.
But things changed in the Middle Ages, and superstitions arose about water being unhealthy, which actually it was because people went to the bathroom and the water went into the rivers and everything got polluted and everything was filthy and people were throwing their excrement out of windows. So, but of all the periods of time that were filthy, the Middle Ages and the beautiful Renaissance was incredibly dirty.
So what was the starting point for you with the story? The fascinating part is the idea that you could capture a breath and perhaps reincarnate somebody. So that must have intrigued you. But how did you marry that with this whole perfume theme?
So, the weird way that I write a book is that I'm always collecting little pieces of interesting information, and they kind of go into a big pot, and they kind of simmer while I'm working on the current book that I'm working on.
Okay.
So it was really just a couple of disparate things. Like, I read about the collecting of the dying breath, and I was fascinated with that, and it was like, wow, that's got to be in the book at some point. And then I was doing research about perfume, and I ran across this thing that Rene went with Catherine to France, and that he made poison, not just perfume. And then I was like, wow, poison and perfume are connected, and that's really interesting. And those two things just kind of melded together in my head somehow, that this man, who was this perfumer, could be looking for this dying breath solution. Because I knew that if you were going to reanimate a dying breath, you were going to need some formula to do it. You weren't going to just be able to let the breath into the air.
Right.
So what kind of person would be able to create that kind of formula? A scientist, an alchemist, a perfumer, and that kind of just is where it all coagulated and came together as a big pot of soup.
And does it culminate at one point in the story? Do any of the breaths actually become a new person?
Well, then you wouldn't have to read the book.
You had also worked on fragrances through television commercials, through even spots that ran on the Oscars.
Yes, when I was in advertising, I was really lucky in that I got to work on the launch of a new perfume from inception, where we actually smelled the formulas and were involved in the naming process, all the way through creating the commercials and then seeing them on the Oscars. It was very exciting indeed. And I kind of fell in love with the world of perfume back then, and then fell in love with it in 2006 when I came up with the idea of writing a series of books that take place against the backdrop of the perfume world.
Oh, really? I would love for you to be with us. Let me tell you something that would be so cool. Robin and I play music, and we play music outdoors at a local park, okay? And it used to be a tourist attraction, but it still attracts tourists from all over the world. Now it's a state park, but it still attracts a lot of people because of the water and the gardens and everything else. So when people walk past us, I will often get a sense of their perfume if it's strong enough, okay?
Yeah.
Right.
And once in a while, I'll say to Robin, that is not a good perfume. Whatever that wasn't good. And then we hear a foreign accent go, it must be popular in Europe.
Uh-huh.
So could you sit with us, let's say, in that circumstance, or maybe even a more popular tourist attraction like Universal or Disney, and literally, if we sat together, and you could say, "Oh, that person is from France. I can smell the perfume."
Yeah.
Because I try to do that with listeners. I mean, with guests like yourself, like with your accent. If I hadn't asked you if you were from Connecticut, just from your accent, I probably could have guessed the Northeast. Although Connecticut might not have happened.
Well, no, I'm from New York. I'm a New Yorker.
Oh, okay. Maybe that's why.
Yes,
But could you do the same thing with scents? Could you actually tell me where somebody is from?
No, because perfume is sold all over the world, from all over the world. So I wouldn't know where the person was from. My guess is that the person who walks by who doesn't smell really good probably hasn't taken a shower.
No, I know that smell. That's Walmart. I smelled that in Walmart. The Collector of Dying Breaths is the title of the book. How long ago did the book come out?
Yesterday. It came out yesterday.
Oh, wow.
Second day.
I'm having such a deja vu. I feel like we had this conversation with you.
Well,
It was a different book, I think.
On maybe on the reincarnationist,
Maybe.
or the hypnotist, and it's always pretty close to pub date, so we probably did.
The Book of Lost Fragrances, maybe? Were you on for that one?
Yes, I don't know if I was on for that one. I could have been. If you're remembering talking to me about perfume, it might have been the Book of Lost Fragrances.
Do you know, I've often wondered about reincarnation, if we could just touch on that for a second. I've often wondered if the whole purpose of life is to learn, right? And then we die, and then we're reborn. What the heck? You lose everything you learned. You got to start as a baby again.
Yeah.
Well, your conscious memory is gone. But a lot of people who believe in reincarnation believe that you come back a little more enlightened each time, and that when you're given the choices to make that will help you progress or regress, that if you're a little more enlightened, you'll make better choices in each life. But there's that space under your nose where the indentation over your upper lip.
Yes.
The lovely little theory that when you're in utero, the angel of forgetfulness, as you're being born, touches you right there and makes you forget all your past lives, because they would be such a burden to remember all the lives you've had with all the tragedy and and sorrow that it's better to forget.
You know what's amazing? I heard that when I was probably in kindergarten. I was on the front lawn of a friend, and he told me that.
You remember that you were in kindergarten?
Absolutely. Well, I know it because I know where I was. I was in Levittown on Long Island, and I moved from Levittown in first grade. So I'm guessing my memory has to be from like kindergarten or something.
Well, yeah, I always thought it was really beautiful, the idea of like an angel touching you there.
Yeah.
Like you wouldn't be burdened.
Yeah. Let me go to the phones if you don't mind. MJ Rose is our guest, and I'm just enjoying the conversation, and I'm just so glad that we don't poop on the steps.
Yeah. Anymore. Gosh.
MJ, good morning. You're on the air with MJ Rose.
Hey, good morning. Oh, I am so enjoying your conversation. I can't wait to get a hold of these books. I didn't know that. By the way, before I ask my other question, are your books out on tape?
Yes, they all are on audio, yeah.
I hope that you read them because you have a very wonderful storytelling way about your voice.
But wait till you hear who reads them. The most beautiful voice, the man who reads them, is my friend Phil Gigante. He's done all of them. I chose him, and he has a velvet tongue.
Oh, wow. I think I'd like to hear you read them, though.
But the book,
yeah.
Good job.
Okay, so you know, the thing about scents and fragrances and olfactory, you know, it's how you can smell something and it can take you back to a time and place. And that is just so amazing. I love this story. And I'm wondering if, isn't that crazy? My actual question just went out of my head.
Oh, that's okay, but I'll tell you something really interesting about what you said. One of the reasons that you can smell something and have an instant memory of it and be back where you were is that your olfactory center, the actual part of your brain where you smell things, that processes scent, is literally touching the part of your brain where memories are stored. So the two of them are so tightly connected. They're closer than any other two things in your brain.
No, wow.
Well, I mean, that's not true. Of all your senses, your sense of scent is closer to your memory in your brain than any other sense. So that's part of the reason why that's so intense for people. And it is the most intense thing. You can smell something and immediately remember where you were or who you were with or what they looked like or some wonderful memory.
Lauren, did you remember the question?
Yes, I do, yes. Yeah, and I'm wondering if somehow the hypothalamus isn't somehow tied into that whole olfactory thing, but that's another subject. So, speaking of reincarnation and all of that, I know of someone who's done research, and he took this little child who they had a sense was reincarnated back to this village out in nowhere, and this little child actually knew that another little child had died and exactly where they kept all their toys and things. And, I mean, it has been found through research that pretty definitive and interesting stuff is out there showing that reincarnation really does, like we have these geniuses who are born. Well, how could they be born with, like, all of this talent and information that they have? But I just love this subject, and I can't wait to get a hold of all your books. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Since your character seemingly takes trips back into the past, does the character... Is that character involved in the St. Bartholomew's Day massacre?
No.
All right.
That was a fast answer.
Yeah, that was.
That was a real. Fast answer.
Let me ask you something, MJ. Have you ever? Can I ask you what your initials stand for?
Yeah, sure. My first name is Melisse.
Okay.
Which is Melisse, which is actually a flower that they use in France in perfume, and in in shampoos and stuff. It smells like lemon balm, which kind of smells like lemon pledge. But I didn't use it because everybody thinks I've misspelled Melissa.
Oh.
You misspelled your first name, or they just assume and they call me Melissa. So I made myself M.
You were destined to write about fragrances, weren't
Yeah.
No, I was. My name is a flower. Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Well, I want to ask you something. It's kind of the spirit, kind of a discussion. Has this ever happened to you? Let's say you drive in your car, and all of a sudden you smell a relative, and it's kind of hard to say how do you smell a relative. But this has happened to me. Where all of a sudden I'll smell my mom. My mom passed away, and there's nothing in the car that would make. And I'm not saying my mom had a smell, nor that she even had a special perfume. I don't think. I just think that when you sense that you're smelling somebody.
Yeah.
Has that ever happened for you?
No, I know what's happening to you. It's kind of opposite of what you think is happening. So, and it's really interesting because of what I just said about memory. So what's happening is, while you're driving, you're seeing something without being aware of it that reminds you of your mother. And the memory, when your mind goes, so you see something that reminds you of your mother is in your memory. Your olfactory gland then makes you remember what she smelled like. So it's not that if she had a favorite perfume and you were somewhere and you smelled it, that would be the opposite. But if you're actually smelling her when she had and there's no smell that you're, or if you did drive by a perfume that she did wear that you don't know.
We forgot about,
Or the last one is, she's actually just with you in the car and wants you to be thinking about it.
That's what I always want to believe.
Yeah.
That's what I want to believe.
Gives me chills.
It is one of those strange things, isn't it? Like at these old car shows, sometimes you can open up an old Chevy and
oh God, yes.
Right, and smell that and go, wow,
Yeah.
I remember that, right?
Yes. That is the most amazing thing to me when I smell. You go somewhere you're not expecting to smell something, and you smell something, and you're like, "Oh my God!" You're right back, like in 7th grade with your French teacher.
Crayola crayons do that for me.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, even saying Crayola crayons, I can remember what they smell like.
Right.
I love how you're part psychologist and part historian, and you even have some mysticism written in the book for the personality.
It's just what I am. I wanted to be a therapist for a long time. I wanted to be a painter. And from a really young age, my mother and my great-grandfather were convinced I was reincarnated when I said something to them when I was 3 years old. So mysticism's kind of been a subject that I've been interested in my whole life. So my books are kind of like the soup of who I am.
Oh,
I do not have a photo of you, but you sound really sexy. She's got a sexy voice. I bet you she smells really good, Robin.
Yeah, I bet too.
Well, God, if I didn't wear perfume, can you imagine how weird that would be?
And I don't know, Gigantic Philip. What's his name? Philip Giganti? What did you say?
Who?
Gigante.
Gigante. It sounds like Gigantic Philip, right?
Yeah.
So
Be happy to hear that, I'm sure.
maybe his name means something too.
There you go.
But man, you should have an audio version of your own, I think.
Well, that's very sweet of you, but I can't. Reading 100,000 words and giving each character different accents, and
he can do that?
Yeah, yeah. All the characters have different accents, and some are French, and some are American, and then
And I even said the characters, Catherine's name wrong, didn't I? It was Catherine.
You said it's Catherine de Medici, but a lot of people pronounce it the way you said it.
De
I don't know
Medici. Yeah, Catherine.
a lot of people say that. I don't think it's wrong. I think it's just two different ways.
Oh, okay.
And you are also a huge advocate for other writers in the world. You really encourage them to just keep writing and just keep moving forward.
Yeah, I've written some books to try to help authors understand more about marketing and how they can help themselves, because there aren't enough people out there trying to help authors figure it all out, because it's all pretty confusing.
If you're ever in Florida, there's a big studio here that you would be welcome in if you want to be here.
Well, I do come to Florida every February. So
we just missed you.
What part of Florida are you in?
We're in Ocala.
North Central.
North Central.
Ocala.
Okay. And my dad lives near Palm Beach, so I go down every year to
It's
see.
a little far, but
It's a little far.
I have a copy of The Collector of Dying Breaths. I would like to give it away. If you want it, listeners, call me. I'll give you the one I have, and I've got about 40 seconds left to tell the listeners how to get the book for the rose of us who need to buy it. mjrose.com. That's your website, right?
That's my website, and the book is available at all bookstores.
All right, and I'm guessing online and the audio and the ebook and everything else. The Collector of Dying Breaths, MJ Rose. MJ, what a delight to speak to you. Thank you so much for.
You too. It was totally delightful.
Very good. All right, we'll be right back.
WOCA News Talk 1370, Ocala's source for what's happening in today's hottest, up-to-date news and topics.
This is a Fox News alert. I'm Lillian Wu. A stabbing spree at a school in Pennsylvania.
Emergency crews are on the scene at Franklin Regional High School in Murraysville, Pennsylvania, just east of Pittsburgh, where an alleged suspect just after 7 a.m. Eastern Time went room to room, we're told, attacking as school began.
Fox Radio's Jeff Manasso, some 20 people hurt.
We also know that one person is in police custody. Parents have also been notified.
The search for the missing Malaysian airliner now centering on a new set of signals heard.
Ocean Shield has now detected 4 transmissions in the same broad area.
Search coordinator Angus Houston saying teams will now try to pick up even more signals in an effort to refine the search area.
Fox Radio Simon Owen. And the New York City police officer injured while responding to a mattress fire Sunday in Coney